You say hi? No? Okay. Okay, go your ways. Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel, Binge Inking. If you are new, my name is Katie, and today I am going to go through my September wrap-up. So in September, I read 6 books, and I'm gonna go through them in order of lowest rating to highest rating. I thought about doing highest to lowest, but then we'd be ending on a negative note, so we're gonna do it the reverse. We'll get the yucky ones out of the way first. So the first book we're gonna talk about today, I gave 1 out of 5 stars, and that is Imaginary Friend by Stephen Chbosky. Now, I know in my last video talking about fall TBR books, I thought this would be a great little spooky horror book. Not that it's little, it's 700 pages. And oh boy, did I feel those 700 pages. All the little kids in this book are about 7 or 8, which was perplexing to me with all of the activities that go on in this book. It really seemed like they were maybe more like 10 to like 13. Like, to me, a 7-year-old is like 3rd grade, like 2nd grade or 3rd grade, and the things these kids were doing and what they were able to like get away with without adults noticing was bizarre to me for their age. Goosey Queen, you wanna come say hi? We have a Goosey Queen. Oh goodness. Shh, shh, shh. She has a bandana on because she takes her collar off. Oh, she just huffed, unless she has the bandana on. And as you can tell, she's grumpy. Are you grumpy? You can lay down if you want. It's not, okay. Okay, so our main character's name is Christopher, and he's 7 or 8, and he and his mom have just moved to this small town, and they were trying to get away from the mom's abusive ex-boyfriend. Christopher goes missing in the woods for 6 days, and when he's found, he's not quite the same as he was before. There's a lot going on with Christopher that only he can see or only he can hear, and he thinks there's this certain task that he has to complete by Christmas, otherwise his mom is going to die. So that's a lot of the book is surrounding that element of the story. And I would say for the first like 150 to 200 pages, I didn't really know where it was going. I was interested by the story. It had some promise to me. The story is an allegory for this like message that the author is trying to relate to the reader. And when I figured out that part of the story, I wanted to throw the book against the wall just because I thought it was really dumb. Like, I was just very disappointed that that was the like twist or the like gotcha moment. It just was not worth all the repetitive descriptions, like having to read like things that little kids say, like mommy and daddy. I don't know why, but whenever that like child's point of view is written by an adult, sometimes it comes off just kind of like, it's just off-putting to me. It's kind of tricky to pull off sometimes, I think. There were certain parts of the story where it was like, we kept going over and over and over and over and over and over them. And I just didn't understand why we had to keep going through it the same exact way every single time. It was like it was a script that the author like copied and pasted, like just to take up room in the book. I don't know. Like, I was just very frustrated with this book. It was not satisfying to me at all. Would not recommend it. I did not like it. 1 star for Imaginary Friend. Okay, the second book that we're going to talk about is a romance, and it's The Wedding Date by Jasmine Guillory. This book I gave 2 stars. Another one that was kind of disappointing in the end for me. We're following Alexa, who is an assistant to the mayor in the Bay Area, I think in San Francisco, pretty sure, and Drew, who is a pediatric surgeon in LA. And they first meet in an elevator in a hotel, and the elevator stops working, so they're stuck there for a while. They really hit it off, and then Drew invites Alexa to be his date at a wedding that he's going to be in that coming weekend. And then when they're at the wedding, really hit it off again, start to have feelings for each other, and then the story goes from there. I really liked Alexa as a character. I liked a lot of things about her. What I don't understand is how she was okay ending up with someone like Drew. It just really felt tone deaf, and it was odd to me because the author is a woman of color, and Alexa is a woman of color, and Drew is white. Drew is super emotionally immature. He is very ignorant on a lot of racial issues. That comes up in this book, and Drew is very ignorant on that topic. It went on from there, and he never quite redeemed himself in my books, and at the end I was just very frustrated. I thought she deserved better. He was garbage. So that was The Wedding Date. Disappointing. Okay, the next book we're going to talk about is also a romance. This one is The Bride Test by Helen Wong. This is not a sequel to The Kiss Quotient. It takes place in the same world, I guess. I think maybe some of the characters are related to characters from the first book. And I liked The Kiss Quotient well enough that I picked up the second book, but I gave this 2.5 stars for a variety of reasons. The premise on this one is that Esme she lives in Vietnam. She literally scrubs toilets for a living and has a young daughter, and she lives with her mom and grandma, and they're very, very poor. And then Esme meets this woman in the hotel where she's cleaning the bathroom, and the woman kind of tricks her, and she wants Esme to come to the US for the summer, and she wants Esme to fall in love with her son and marry him and make the son fall in love with her. So she goes. The main guy's name is Kai, and he is autistic. Helen Wong does really good representation of characters who are on the spectrum. So Kai is very, he has a great job, he makes money, smart guy, well-dressed, very handsome. He just is very socially awkward, and so he's never had a relationship with a woman that has worked out. So Esme comes to the States, and she has to stay at Kai's house. And they basically have until the end of the summer to fall in love. And I would say on this book, by the end, I was just kind of meh. I was just kind of glad it was over. I didn't really believe in their relationship at all. I didn't feel like they had anything in common. I just didn't really care. And it was just kind of an odd story. So yeah, that was The Bride Test. Now we're getting to books I kind of liked a little bit better. We got those out of the way. The next one is Mexican Gothic by Silvia Moreno Garcia. And in this book, we are following Noemi, who is, I think she's about 20, and she's from Mexico City, and she's used to living this fancy lifestyle. She goes to parties, smokes cigarettes, dates boys, likes to flirt, likes to dress up, all of that. And her cousin, who she grew up with and is very close with, married a guy no one else really knew. She moved to this smaller town in Mexico, and Noemi's father receives a letter from the cousin, and it's kind of disturbing, maybe she's not well and she's asking for help. So the father sends Noemi to go visit the cousin and figure out what's going on and how they can help her. This book was very atmospheric, and it kind of gave me Rebecca vibes. One of the reviews I was reading said they described the atmosphere as decaying decadence, and I think that sums it up really well, because it takes place in this big old house that's kind of falling apart. You can tell it used to be really fancy and really nice, but there's barely electricity, the water's never hot, the wallpaper's all moldy, and the main lady who takes care of the house is super mean, super strict. Noemi can't leave the property, she can't drive into town, they literally are not allowed to speak during dinner. And so it's just kind of weird for the first maybe 2/3 of the book. There's some suspense building up because you really have no idea what is going on, but you just know that something's really wrong. Definitely takes a twist. The last third of the book was much more enjoyable for me. It picked up the pace. You really get to see what's going on, maybe in more detail than you would like. I wouldn't really describe it as a horror novel. There is a little bit of body horror where it's just kind of gross, but there's nothing graphic or explicit. it's just kind of intense, I would say. So if you're kind of turned off by things that are like gory or like super, super scary, you would probably be okay to read this one. I did also really like this book. Oh, I never said the rating. I gave it 3.25 stars. But I did like this book, went over some themes of like race, eugenics, wealth, patriarchy, things that like were really well woven into the story, where it wasn't the author like hitting you over the head like, I'm trying to make a point about eugenics. Like, it was well done. The first 2/3 were a little boring. Like, it sets you up for the final third. It's not like it drags and drags and drags. It just, I wasn't like glued to it, but it was very interesting. It was a good little atmospheric book that if you like that vibe, you might like. Okay, the next book is The Chosen and the Beautiful by Nevo. This one I gave 3.75 stars, and this book is a retelling of The Great Gatsby. I really enjoyed the writing in this book. It really felt true to the source material. Like, it wasn't like they just took the characters from The Great Gatsby and threw them into a completely different style of book. Like, the writing felt a lot like the actual writing of F. Scott Fitzgerald. Where it's very, like the descriptions are just really pretty and you really get a sense of the setting. And I would say, in contrast to Mexican Gothic, where we have the decaying decadence, this book is the decadence of the 1920s. And everything, like, you know, like the big Gatsby parties where everything is just super fancy, the champagne is flowing, we have all these beautiful people and celebrities and rich people. I really enjoyed all of that. I was very impressed with how the author pulled that off. This book is told more from the point of view of Jordan Baker, who is Daisy's closest friend in The Great Gatsby. I really liked the way the author kind of twisted the story from The Great Gatsby, because Jordan is Vietnamese and she's adopted by a white family in St. Louis, and she was orphaned supposedly in Vietnam, and then she grows up to be like a society woman in St. Louis with Daisy, and they're very close. You follow a lot of the same storyline as The Great Gatsby, but there's a lot else that the author was able to put in here. There's some kind of like darker magic happening. I feel like it was a very well done retelling. I didn't give it 4 or 5 stars just because there was a lot of setting the scene, exploring the characters, all of that. So like, that's very well done. But like, when it comes down to the actual plot, it was a little bit lacking, and kind of by the end I was like, okay, I'm glad I read it. It was really pretty, but I wasn't like enthralled by it. If you like The Great Gatsby and you want to see something that's in the same vein but more modern and updated, but still taking place in that same time frame, I would recommend it. And then I have one more book to go over, and this one was clearly my favorite of the month since it's last, and that is Writers and Lovers by Lily King. Oh, I loved this book. This book I gave 4.75 stars, and I just adored it. It is totally in the same type of vein as Sally Rooney, where it's a really deep character study, and the characters are more artsy. Like, our main character's name is Casey, and she's a writer. You really feel like you know Casey. You feel like these characters are very real. It was emotional at times. Casey's very fresh off the loss of her mother, who died very suddenly, and she's really still trying to work through that. She lives in a garage basically because she's super broke. She has a ton of debt still from college. She works as a server at this restaurant. She's just trying to write. Like, she has talent and has been recognized for that talent, but she just can't, like, she's just in a bad spot when we first meet her. It was also a story that really resonated with me because it's about someone who feels like she looks around her. Oh, do we see a little goosey tail? She feels like she looks at everyone else around her that's her age, and they're either like married or super successful, or they are actually writers and like doing it. And she looks at herself and she's like, I'm drowning in debt and I can't even sit down to write my book because I'm having a panic attack because I'm so like drowning in the grief of losing my mother, and she just feels like a failure. And I think a lot of us have been there where you're like, everyone else is way farther ahead than I am and I suck. It was written well, where it felt very realistic and true to how those feelings actually feel. And then a lot of the book too is you're following her in relationships with these two men, and I liked them both for different reasons. She kind of has to decide which one she's gonna go with, and that kind of ties in as well to her novel that she's writing. And I don't know, it was just fabulous. That's all I'm gonna say about the plot. By the end, I was just like, bravo, Lily King, love it. I will read more by her after reading Writers and Lovers. It was just fantastic. Okay, so that is my September wrap up, and I would say it was an okay reading month. I am very excited for what I have on deck for October. I kind of talked about some of the books I wanted to read in my last video, but I have a feeling it'll be a little bit of a better reading month. So I'm very excited. I hope that you had a great reading month of September as well. Put what you're reading in the comments below and let's chat. Or if you've read any of the books that I talked about today, let me know what you thought. I would love to discuss it. And I will see you all in my next video. Bye. Say bye, everyone. May a good reading month cross your path. Bye-bye. You have to make an appearance too, since we saw everyone else. Say bye.